Let's work on clarity today. Clarity is one of the qualities that we're sort of nurturing in our practice. And as with all things in this practice, we can, whenever you want to nurture something in it, you just bring it down to its most basic essentials. So if we want to have more clarity in our life, we just work on first in our meditation practice, more clarity of perception. And it is a fundamental thing we need to have in our practice, in our mindfulness practice. Without clarity, there will be things constantly flowing underneath our perception that are controlling our experience. So, as always, just take a moment to accept where you are. Allow your body to feel the way it does today. This is already a question of clarity. You're sitting down. Do you want to sit down? Do you want to meditate? Is it drawing you in? Is it a struggle? And just allow that. That's fine. No matter how you feel, this is the perfect way to feel for today's sit. We just want to develop the ability to allow for however we are. And as part of that, today we can say to get clear about however we are. And so just a simple question like, am I being drawn towards meditation today, or am I pushing it away? Or am I reaching for it and it seems ungraspable? These are all just ways of getting a little more clarity about how we feel right now. So we're going to speed this practice, part of the practice up. Just hear one thing. So let go of my voice and hear one thing in your environment. Very important. I think sometimes I underestimate how difficult this can be to grasp at the subtle levels. It's very important that we are getting perceptual clarity of what we're hearing, as opposed to mental clarity about what we're hearing. So, what would mental clarity be? It would be like, oh, that's a bird, that's not a car. Okay, we have some clarity there mentally. But what we are aiming for is perceptual clarity, sensory clarity. So, hear the one thing. If it's one thing that came and went, just hear the silence that came back after. But this will be easier if you can still hear it. What are elements of sensory clarity? Where is it? How loud is it? What pitch is it? High or low? What texture or timbre does it have? Good. Now, see the back of your eyelids. And with in that experience at the back of your eyelids, I just want you to find a patch of gray, black, or white. And just find a patch that has a little bit of a shape to it. Don't strain your eyes. You might notice a white highlight or a soupy gray area. This is easier to keep our mind out of because we don't normally think about this area, but the clarity we're looking for is some sensory clarity. Can you notice the shifting, changing quality, the light or dark quality? Can you maybe notice the shape of this experience, the size? And we're not straining our eyes here, so we're just allowing whatever's coming up and just having some clarity. If, for instance, you can't pick out a patch, just notice that. Notice, oh, there's some light and dark behind my eyes. There's some gray and black and white. Okay, now we want to reach into our body. We want to look into our body and we want to find a location that feels good, that feels kind of nice. I'm going to try and work with the breath as I often do. So just see if you want to join me. We could start with, for instance, the nostrils where we breathe in. We want to get some sensory clarity. So when we breathe in, we'll notice the shape of our sensation. We might notice whether it's cold or hot. Notice exactly when the cold begins and when the hot begins, or vice versa. And this is more difficult, but you may notice that you have a sensory image, a picture in your mind of your nostrils, of your breath. And that's fine. Notice the visual element and then notice the feeling element. And we're going to keep coming back to the feeling sensation today. Even though there is a visual sensation, you can hear my voice. There's still the blank behind the eyelids. So there's nothing wrong with having these other senses, but we're going to keep focusing in and getting clarity about right here and right now, the feeling sensation. And I just want you to get one other location in your body that feels good. I will choose the ground. So feeling my feet or my butt on the seat or my feet on the ground. And going and getting clear about that location. So don't think about it too long. Just feel the sensations of your seat beneath you. Find the shape. You might want to just take the right or the left side. Feel the shape of your contact. That is another way of expressing that is keep going, keep feeling the sensation until you notice it stops in one direction. Go feel where it's no longer, right? And then come back until you can feel the boundary. And the boundary might be vague. This is clarity, clarity about what we're feeling here. So I want you to notice there's a clear distinction between the sensations in the nostrils and the sensations in the ground. And you are always welcome to choose other parts of the body if they feel better. I don't want you to be choosing something that's challenging emotionally or if it's in pain or something. But once you have your two locations, I want you to notice nostrils, ground. Now, this sounds like an idea, nostrils and ground. Those are two ideas. So we remind ourselves, no, we want to feel the sensory clarity that those are separate experiences. This one feels like this, and this one feels like this. So you need to sort of develop your own skill here, but you can alternate back and forth a little bit, but make sure you don't leave one until you've really felt it, its present moment sensory experience. There's the nostrils. I feel a little coolness. I'm going to let for the breath go out, and then I'm going to go to the ground. There's the ground. I feel its warmth. I feel the pressure just on the right side for me. You may notice if you alternate a little bit that it's not like one leaves awareness. They're both still in awareness, but you still, but only really pay attention to that if you can maintain clarity between them. There's the warm one that's located over there. There's the more light one that's located over there, or whatever. Again, find a sound, clearly a different experience. Do what you have to do to tune into it, the pitch, the loudness, the location. Come back to the nostrils. So when we're on our own, especially, we often use labels here to sort of emphasize the clarity. So if we're on our own, we might feel the nostrils and we might say feel to ourselves, feel. And we might hear the sound and go here, feel, here, feel. You could use other labels like breath and ground. So if you want to feel the breath in the nostrils, breath, feel the ground, ground, breath, ground. Okay, come back to the breath. Hopefully this is giving you a sense of clarity. You're starting to get a sense of what it's like to be more clear. And this level of clarity can get very, very sharp until you can distinguish dozens of sensory experiences per second. But it takes practice. It's not for the mind to name any of these things. Your mind can't keep track of dozens of things per second, but your senses can. So when we start living in our senses, be more and more present. Now we can apply this quality of clarity to the breath. So if we're focusing on the nostrils, it's actually a relatively complex experience. You may not notice it right away, but if you keep paying attention, there's two nostrils, there's locations inside the nose and outside the nose. There's a vibrating, ever-changing breathing experience. So can we have clarity between the beginning of the in-breath and the end of the in-breath? Can we have clarity between the beginning of the out-breath and the end of the out-breath? And that's not an idea of clarity, but actual sensory clarity. What does it feel like? Can I feel the moment the breath begins? Where do I feel it? What is that sensory experience? So we can get more and more clarity. What does the beginning of the in-breath feel like? Where is the microscopic beginning of that sensation? And we're staying so focused on the nostrils, that we can then catch the microscopic ending of that in-breath, right where we feel it most, exactly how it feels, what tingle, what pressure. Now, I'm using lots of ideas here to point you to clarity, but the clarity we're looking for, again, I repeat, is not an idea. So we use these ideas and then we let go of them. And when we start to get really focused, the clarity just becomes a feature of our focus. So now we can just relax a little bit, just take a little bit of the effort off and just see if you can't stay with the breath and just see how clear it is from beginning to end. What you'll notice, well, there's two things you'll notice. One, you'll notice distraction when you just totally are not on the breath. Most people get a lot of distraction at the beginning. If you've been sitting a while longer, there'll be less distraction, but you'll still get distraction. And the ability to get clarity about distraction is a very important skill along the way. So we'll just be like, oh, that was a distraction. Why it was a distraction? Because my attention was clearly on something that was not the breath. It can get confusing because you can have thoughts about the breath. You can have, just a memory that fleetingly flips through your head. You can just bounce for a second out to something you're hearing, like my voice. So first, we try to get clarity about distraction. Distraction is not bad. It's an opportunity for more clarity. It's a really good way to think about distraction. And second, it's actually another kind of distraction, but within the breath, you're staying with the breath the whole time, and you'll notice certain parts are muddy. They're vague. You can't fully, you weren't fully there for the experience of that part of the breath. And so we just get more and more aware. So you'll often hear me talk about deepening our concentration or really paying attention to how focused we are. Clarity is another way of measuring that. So it's sort of like when the breath comes out of focus for a second, you're noticing a lack of clarity, just like a camera coming out of focus, where you're not noticing all the little pinpoints of experience that make up the breath. So now we're going to drop into our concentration practice explicitly, and I won't talk as much for a few minutes here. And just you can use a label like breath or feel, and try to get clarity about when distraction happens or when unfocusedness happens. Neither are bad. I know there's a goal of getting more clarity, but it's actually really useful to notice distraction. The thing that distracts you during this breath is going to be tied to the things that distract you all through your day. So just noticing I lost the breath, but I was over here. I felt this, or I heard that, or I thought this. Do you need to crank up the effort a little bit to get that camera focused? Or do you need, or is there an opportunity to relax, to let go of a little bit of effort? The effort itself is something that will eventually, it's almost like quantum mechanics, it will mess with your clarity as you get down to these more subtle and microscopic levels. So you just need to see, am I mostly in distraction? Then you need some effort. But am I starting to get more, the more the issue is the vagueness or the unfocusedness of the image? Maybe I need to still the camera lens a little more, and that might be a little bit of relaxation, but it requires wisdom to start noticing and working with this. Okay, so you can start to come out of the sit. You just let yourself move and stretch and open your eyes. And just with your eyes open, you sort of look around. And can you feel this sense of clarity, this distinctness between the red and the white, between the yellow and the green? I'm using the color so we don't get caught up in between the couch and the floor, but it's that too, right? It's the clarity of perception. The mind muddies everything. There's all these senses over there, and the mind goes tree. That's actually very muddy compared to your sensory experience. Now, having conceptual clarity is very useful in life. So knowing that the tree is not my car, really useful. But to be present is to get out of that muddiness of mind. That whole complex thing that is the tree over there out the window is the tree just makes it, just smears it, right? But if you go look, it's like that bright white on that leaf where the sun is hitting, and that little red berry, and so on, right? And now I'm using again concepts to separate those things out, but we want to use sensory experience. All right, try that for a bit.